I caught my fiancé cheating with my brother, so I showed up at our family party and exposed everything. Then they invited me to their wedding. The passenger door flew open and she wasn't alone. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I should have been elbow-deep in carburetors and grease at the shop like I told her. But something didn't sit right when she canceled our dinner plans for the third time this week. Girls' night, she said, too fast, voice too light. That fake kind of cheerful that sticks out like a cracked windshield. So instead of heading home, I took the back road up to Twin Pines Lookout. It's where we used to park in high school, drink cheap beers, make plans that never panned out. Tessa always said it made her feel like the world stopped spinning for a little while. So maybe I just wanted to feel that again. Or maybe, deep down, I knew what I was gonna find. The Jeep wasn't hers. Tessa drives a blue Accord, always spotless, but I recognized the dent in the bumper. My brother Caleb's Jeep. The same one I helped him buy when he got out of his DUI mess last year. I sat there in my truck, engine still running, watching through the windshield like I'd been sucker punched. She was laughing when she got out, laughing. Her hair was a mess, makeup smudged, wearing my hoodie like it belonged to her. And then he stepped out behind her, adjusting his belt. My foot hit the brake before I realized I'd floored it. Gravel sprayed out from under my tires. The sound made her turn. She froze when she saw me. Caleb didn't. He just raised his chin like he was expecting me. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. I didn't get out of the truck. I didn't even blink. We just stared at each other, the three of us. A perfect little triangle of betrayal. Tessa stepped forward, mouth opening, then closing. No words came out. She looked. I don't even know. Ashamed? Afraid? Guilty? Maybe all of it. Or maybe just annoyed she got caught. I should have driven away. Should have peeled out like every dude in every movie who finds out his girl's been sneaking around. But I couldn't move. Instead, I did something even I didn't expect. I turned off the engine and stepped out. The air was sharp with pine and wet earth. The kind of cold that bites through your jacket. But I didn't feel it. I walked straight toward them, slow, calm. Caleb shifted like he thought I might hit him. Good. Tessa, I said, and my voice didn't sound like mine. It sounded like someone watching their own life from the outside. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. Caleb said nothing. Anything you want to say? I asked. She didn't speak. Just shook her head. And that was worse than 1,000 apologies. I nodded. Just once. Then turned around, walked back to the truck, got in. I didn't drive away right then. I sat with my hands on the wheel, watching them in the mirror. Caleb said something I couldn't hear. Tessa backed away from him. That should have felt good. Like a win. It didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there thinking. Do I tell Mom? Do I tell everyone? Do I burn the whole thing down or walk away like none of it happened? That was the moment I knew it. I had a decision to make. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, arms crossed over my chest like I was afraid I might fall apart if I moved wrong. There's the lie you catch and the lie that catches you. The one that wraps itself around your neck like a noose and whispers, you should have known. Caleb's my little brother. Not by much, just 2 years, but still. He was the wild one growing up. Always wrecking bikes, skipping school, chasing girls. I was the fixer. Always cleaning up after him. When he rear-ended a truck senior year, I lied to Dad to keep him from losing his license. When he got arrested for bar brawling last spring, I drained my savings to cover his bail. And now? He thanked me by sneaking around with my fiancée. My fiancée. I stared at my phone for an hour, thumb hovering over Tessa's name. She hadn't called. Hadn't texted. Not a single damn word. At 3:17 a.m. I broke and called Caleb. He picked up on the second ring. No hello, just a sigh. A long, tired sigh like he was the one who'd been betrayed. You want to talk about it, he said, like this was some misunderstanding. Like I just needed to hear the context. I want you to say it, I replied. Silence. I waited. You already know, he said. That was it. Not even a shred of remorse. Not a sorry. Not a man, I messed up. Just cold resignation. Like he knew he'd won something I didn't even realize was up for grabs. How long? I asked, my throat tight. Does it matter? He said. And that's when I realized he didn't just do this, he meant it. It wasn't some drunk mistake. It wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a choice. You always get everything, Caleb muttered, voice low. Mom and Dad loved you more. You got the business. You got the truck. You got her. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. Like his life's failures had been handed to him by me personally. You think I got Tessa? Like she's a prize off a shelf. She chose you, he snapped. Until she didn't. Click. I hung up. I was shaking so hard my phone nearly slipped out of my hands. That's when it hit me, this wasn't just about Tessa. This was about my family, my future, my past. Every single sacrifice I made so Caleb could stay afloat had just been spit back in my face. I stared at the ceiling again, except now I saw the cracks. My life had a fault line running right through the middle, and I never saw it coming. The sun came up and the world looked exactly the same, but I wasn't. That morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee and a single question burning a hole in my brain. Do I tell Tessa I want the ring back, or do I tell her I want blood? The ring was still in the tray by the sink. I stared at it while brushing my teeth, foamy paste clinging to the edge of my mouth, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. It should have been on her finger. It was there 2 days ago, winking back at me while she laughed at a stupid meme over breakfast. Now it looked like some cursed thing. A symbol of everything I hadn't seen. I picked it up. It was warm somehow, like it remembered her. My hands trembled, but not with sadness, anger, grief, disbelief. That horrible cocktail of emotions that leaves you hollow and sharp-edged all at once. I slid the ring into my pocket and drove to the shop. I needed noise. I needed the smell of engine oil and the clatter of tools. But the moment I walked in, James, my second in command, gave me that look. You know the one. Like he'd seen a ghost and didn't know whether to hug it or run. You good? He asked. Yep, I lied. I wasn't. I was spinning. And then, out of habit or maybe something crueler, I opened the security footage from the lot. That's when I saw it. Tessa. Yesterday afternoon. Pulling up in Caleb's Jeep. Not once. Twice. She came by the shop. She stood by my truck. Looked in the window. Then she turned and drove away. I don't know why, but that hit harder than anything else. Not the cheating, not Caleb's betrayal. That moment, the fact she came to where I worked, stared at my life, and left like it didn't matter, that's what broke me. She didn't even knock. She just looked and left. I closed the tab and turned off the monitor. My stomach twisted. That's when the decision finally started to form, slow and bitter. I could ignore it. Swallow the pain, let them have each other. Start over, clean break. Or I could make them hurt the way I was hurting. But I had to decide fast. Because Saturday? That's my mom's retirement party. Big family thing. Everyone's coming. Tessa, Caleb, even our cousins from out of state. If I say nothing, I'll be shaking hands with the man who stole my fiancée. If I say something, I burn the whole house down. So I sat there, staring at my coffee, cold and untouched, and asked myself, do I want peace or justice? The party was already in full swing when I pulled up to the lodge. Balloons everywhere, streamers in our mom's favorite color, sunflower yellow. She'd always said it made her feel warm, like a hug in color. I parked a little off to the side. Out of habit. Out of caution. I hadn't RSVP'd. Nobody expected me there. After what happened between Tessa and Caleb, I figured they assumed I'd go dark. They weren't wrong. But I wasn't there to raise a glass. I was there for the truth. Inside, the crowd was buzzing with familiar laughter and off-key sing-alongs to Mom's playlist, ABBA, Fleetwood Mac, the usual nostalgia mix. I slipped through the side entrance. No one noticed at first. Not until I reached the table. Tessa was standing beside Mom, holding a plastic flute of champagne, smiling like nothing had ever happened. Caleb was a few feet away, laughing too loud at something someone said, wearing that same smug grin. I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. Tessa turned. Her face dropped the moment she saw me. Caleb stopped mid-laugh. Stared. Hey, everyone, I said, loud enough to kill every conversation in a 10-foot radius. Just wanted to say thanks for inviting me. Mom lit up, clapped her hands. I wasn't sure you'd come, honey. Oh, I had to, I said, keeping my voice even. Wouldn't miss it. After all, it's not every day you get to retire and find out your kids are sleeping with each other's partners. Silence. You could hear the air leave the room. What the hell are you talking about? Mom's smile froze, eyebrows rising. I looked straight at Tessa. Want to tell her? Or should I? Tessa's mouth opened, then shut. She looked around like she was checking for exits. Caleb stepped forward. You're really gonna do this here? I turned to him. Where else, Caleb? Should I have booked a brunch and sent invites? You want mimosas with your betrayal? Gasps. Someone dropped a glass. Tessa finally spoke. We didn't mean, Save it, I snapped. You meant it enough to keep doing it behind my back. Mom stepped between us, holding up her hands like she could physically push the shame away. This isn't the time. Please, just stop. But I didn't. I couldn't. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the ring, and dropped it on the table in front of Tessa. Might want to give this to someone else, I said. Maybe next time, don't wear my hoodie when you crawl into his Jeep. That got an audible "oh my god" from Aunt Melissa. I walked out after that. Didn't look back. My hands were shaking, but my spine? Straight. I got in my truck, turned the key, and sat in the silence, heart thudding like a war drum. Then my phone buzzed. A single text from Mom. "Why would you humiliate your brother like that?" I stared at it, then turned off my phone, because now I knew exactly who I was dealing with. And I wasn't finished. I didn't sleep again that night. I just laid on the couch in the garage next to the same truck Caleb helped me rebuild back in '09. The irony stung, his fingerprints were all over it. Kind of like my relationship with Tessa, I guess. The ring was still in my coat pocket. I kept reaching for it like a habit, like some part of me hadn't caught up to reality yet. In the morning, I woke to a knock on the door. It was Dad. Not many words. Just his weathered face and a Tupperware container full of Mom's chili. "Can I come in?" he asked. I nodded. We sat on 2 overturned buckets. He didn't eat. Neither did I. "Your mom's upset," he said. "No surprise there," I muttered. He rubbed his jaw. "You embarrassed her." "Caleb slept with my fiancée," I snapped. "But yeah, sure, I'm the problem." He didn't argue. Just nodded slowly. That hurt more than anything he could have said. "She's always protected him," I added. "Even when he didn't deserve it." Dad looked up at me, eyes tired. "I know." I blinked. "You know?" He nodded again. "I've known since last month. Found texts on his iPad when I borrowed it." My stomach dropped. "And you didn't say anything?" "I didn't know how." I stood up, pacing now. "You didn't know how? You raised me to always tell the truth, to stand up." "I was wrong," he cut in. "I thought if I kept quiet it would stop. That maybe Caleb would come clean, or Tessa would, but I never thought it'd come to this." "So you let me find out that way? At the Overlook? Like a punchline in a bad soap opera?" He didn't respond. That silence said everything. I walked to the door and held it open. "You need to go." He looked at me for a long moment. "You sure?" I nodded. "Yeah." He stood, chili still in hand, and as he passed me he said, "I'm sorry, son. I didn't know who to protect." I shut the door behind him. Then I locked it. Because now I knew this wasn't just betrayal. It was abandonment. Later that day, I opened my email. There it was. A message from Caleb. "You aired our dirty laundry. You hurt Mom. You're not family anymore." I read it 3 times. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I hit reply. "I'm not your brother. I'm the guy who finally woke up." Then I blocked his number. And every time the silence filled the room, I let it sit. I let it sting. Because pain meant I was still alive. And survival? That was the next step. I wasn't looking for it. I swear on everything, I wasn't snooping. But 2 days after the party, I stopped by my parents' place to grab my old toolbox. Mom was out. Dad wasn't home either. I knew the code, let myself in. It should have been simple, grab the box, get out. Instead, I saw an envelope half-tucked under a magazine on the kitchen table. My name wasn't on it. But Caleb's was. Something about it, maybe the handwriting, made me pause. I told myself I was just gonna move it. Put it somewhere safer. But when I picked it up, I noticed the seal wasn't glued. Just folded shut. My hands moved before my brain did. The letter was short. From Mom. It read, "You were right. He's always been jealous. Always tried too hard. This might be the wake-up he needs. Maybe it's harsh, but maybe it's necessary. We'll smooth it over once he calms down. He always comes back eventually." I read it 3 times. Every word sliced me open. It wasn't just that she didn't defend me, it's that she expected me to fold. To forgive. To play my role again. The fixer. The understanding one. That letter wasn't just betrayal. It was a plan. A roadmap back to silence. I set it down gently, right where I found it. Then I took a deep breath and grabbed a pen from the drawer. Flipped the envelope over. Wrote in bold black ink. "Not this time." And walked out. Later that night, I packed up every photo of my family I still had. Every birthday card, every framed Christmas morning. Every graduation picture with forced smiles and stiff arms around shoulders. I didn't burn them, but I boxed them up. Sealed the tape. Labeled it for the Museum of Delusion. Because if I was ever going to move forward, I had to stop pretending they were something they weren't. I had to start choosing myself. Even if it meant losing everything else. The text came at 2:12 a.m. just when I thought I was finally falling asleep. It was from Tessa. The message was short, casual, almost cruel in its calmness. "I know things didn't end well, but Caleb and I are getting married in the fall. I wanted you to hear it from me. I hope someday we can all move forward." I stared at it, heart thudding in my ears. Then another text followed, like she'd remembered her manners. "You're still invited. I hope you come. I didn't reply. I didn't sleep either. The next morning, I showed the message to James at the shop. He blinked like he couldn't believe what he was reading. Man, that's bold, he muttered. You thinking about going? I didn't answer. But I was thinking. Because what do you do when the people who wrecked you invite you to watch them dance on the ashes? A week passed. Then two. And then the formal invitation came in the mail. Ivory envelope. Gold trim. Embossed with Caleb and Tessa in that swoopy script that looks classy until you realize it's announcing a war crime. My name was printed inside. A +1. They even had the nerve to list me under family. I set the invitation on my kitchen table. Then I poured a drink. Then another. At midnight, my phone buzzed. Mom. I almost didn't pick up, but I was tired of running. Her voice was clipped, businesslike. I assume you got the invitation? Yep. Good. I know it's a lot, but this is a big step. For all of us. I laughed. Just once. Quiet and bitter. She kept going. I think showing up would be healing. Healing for who? I asked. Everyone, she said. It would show you're the bigger person. And there it was. The script again. The pressure to rise above. To play peacekeeper. To swallow the fire just to make everyone else comfortable. I didn't say anything. Mom sighed. Look, come to the wedding or don't, but don't make it about you. Click. I didn't even realize I'd hung up until I saw my lock screen again. I looked back at the invitation. Then I whispered out loud to no one. What if this time? I do make it about me. 3 days before the wedding, an envelope slid under my shop's front door. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Mom's. Inside was a single note, typed and signed. We reserved you a seat near the front. Please come. Don't make a scene. Don't embarrass us. Under it was a printed card with my name, Caleb's brother, in elegant cursive. Caleb's brother. Not Jason. Not even son. Just a placeholder. A prop in a family fantasy. I held the card over the waste bin and paused. Part of me wanted to light it on fire. To drive up to the venue just to shred it on the dance floor. But another part, the quieter one, it just felt tired. Tired of fighting people who never once fought for me. That night, I took a walk through the woods behind my place. No phone. Just me and the wind. I sat on the same old bench Dad built when I was a kid, the one where he'd carve little notches in the wood with his pocket knife every time Caleb made a game-winning play. There were 29 notches. None were mine. I ran my fingers over the grooves. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. Not the angry kind. Not even the wounded kind. Just the kind that comes when your heart finally accepts the people you love will never love you the way you need. By the time I got home, the sky had started to lighten. I poured myself a coffee and opened my laptop. Not to check the wedding registry, but to book a flight. I wasn't sure where yet, but I knew it had to be far. The wedding was Saturday. By the time they were saying their vows, I'd be 30,000 feet in the air, heading somewhere with no reception and no last-minute guilt trips. I left the RSVP card on my kitchen counter with one word written in bold black Sharpie. Declined. And underneath it, just to be clear. You already uninvited me. You just didn't say it out loud. I didn't go to the wedding. I didn't watch them say their vows under some stringlit gazebo or pose for photos with fake smiles and clinking glasses. I didn't sit at the front like a proud sibling pretending none of it happened. Instead, I boarded a red-eye to Glacier National Park. No cell service, no noise. Just mountains and silence and the sound of my own breath finally not ragged with grief. It was the first time in months I felt something close to peace. The day after the wedding, James texted me a photo. Caleb and Tessa mid-dance. Her in white, him in a black tux. Big crowd behind them. Everyone clapping. Except Mom sitting at the edge of the frame. Face tight. Staring off to the side. Like something had finally sunk in. No caption. Just the photo. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I stayed off-grid for a week. Hiked alone. Slept under a sky thick with stars. And then, one afternoon, I got a call from Dad. I let it ring. He tried again. Then again. The fourth time, I picked up. He sounded older. More cracked around the edges. Just wanted to say. I didn't go to the wedding either, he said. Didn't feel right. I didn't say anything. He added. Caleb asked why. I told him. Tell him I'm not his father right now. He said maybe you'd feel the same. Still, I said nothing. Not until he asked quietly, do you? I closed my eyes. Thought about the ring. The invitation. The bench with 29 notches. Then I said calmly. Tell him I'm not his brother anymore. Dad breathed heavy into the phone, but didn't argue. We hung up a minute later. Back home, I changed my number. closed my Facebook, unfollowed every family member except James. And I started fresh. A few months later, I met someone. Someone who didn't know Caleb, or Tessa, or any of it. And the first time she laughed at one of my dumb jokes without a second thought, without comparison, I felt something strange and unfamiliar. Hope. I still drive the same truck. Still have the hoodie she borrowed. But they don't hurt the same. Not anymore. Because the last thing I ever said to Caleb wasn't a scream or a threat. It was silence. And that silence was freedom.